Here at the Giver Marketing Network, we don't leave you drifting out in space. We connect you to a coach who will help you build and grow your marketing business. Our process acts as a guide on how to connect with other businesses, maintain good relations, and establish a presence on the Giver Marketing Network. Each member within this collaborative group will have the opportunity to leverage your talent and influence, a true network effect. If you are looking to collaborate on more projects, welcome to the Giver Marketing Network, the most trusted and highest rated collective of specialists on the planet. Here we have a group of like-minded professionals who focus on making valuable introductions and helping each other grow by teaming up. Imagine Upwork meets a network and a coach. The talent collectively includes services like visibility and SEO, creating logos, designing websites, managing social media, outreach messaging, visual storytelling, and much more. Think of what you could do with laser-focused allies strengthening your business while offering your talents to the entire network. Click near this video for more information.
Hello, hello. Welcome to our Tuesday marketing broadcast. We're excited today. Shout out to all of our partners out there and all our friends that are watching. So Kingdom Warriors, hello. Prepared Group, hello. And Giver Marketing Network, of course. And we're glad to have you here. And this morning we have Joel Snyder with us. Woot, woot, Joel's in the house. So, Joel, I'm excited because I know we've got a fun topic coming up. And this is just, we love this playground right here, this marketing spaces, and you have so much wisdom. For our fans out there, let them know a little bit about you, a little bit about your background.
Thanks, Christine. Man, I'm so excited to be here. I always enjoy these broadcasts and any opportunity I have to interact with the Giver Marketing Network. And having been a longtime member, I can't tell you how much benefit I've derived from being part of this group. So a little bit about me. I operate as a fractional CMO, and I work with clients to help streamline their marketing programs so that they're predictable, profitable, sustainable, and scalable. So it's important that as you have growth in your company or you're launching a new product, opening a channel of distribution, that you have someone sitting on your side of the desk protecting your interest. And that's the role that I like to play.
And you do it so well. I know I love bringing you in on collaborations. And that's one of the best things about the network is the opportunity to collaborate with other marketers. So don't be a lonelypreneur. We always say, come hang out with us with Giver Marketing Network.
Yeah. And so today we're going to talk about creating content, meaningful content that actually converts. And I think the biggest, let me just preface it by saying, you're going to hear a lot of things today that you already know. And you're going to hear it in ways that you may have heard it before. But the best thing about it is we're going to put stuff into context so that you can relate that to a conversion strategy. And so if we can do that, then we can take all of our relational knowledge and focus it in a way that's going to build and impact our business.
Absolutely. And I'm really excited because I know we've got some more experts in the room that will pop in for our discussion later in the conversation today. But let's get started. Let's bring your slides up and let's talk. What you got going on here, Joel?
Yeah, so this is a process. And what I've tried to do is just boil it down. So after a lot of thoughtful consideration and tons of coffee, we kind of formulate this routine that we have in our minds of how we feel marketing should go. So what I tried to do is just pull all of these best practices together and put it, like I said, into context for conversion and growing the business. So here's a few questions for you. And for those of everyone here today or listening to the broadcast, when I say this could also be your client, right? So if you're a marketer here and you're working on building content for a client, just insert their name. So what do I do better than anyone else, right? And I say that because there's something about you that no one else knows that's a true skill that you bring to the table. And you try to talk about it in lots of different ways, but can you put that into a clear, succinct message? Right? And what do I like to do more than anything else? We want to attract the business we want, right? We don't want to attract business we don't want. So how many times are you willing to say, I don't want that business? Well, it's going to be because it's something you don't like to do, right? So, you think about that. So why did I start this business to begin with, right? Because there's something I do better than anyone else, and I like doing more than anything else, right? And if I could find that job and someone would pay me 7 figures to do it, I'd probably scrub the business and go work for them, but it just wasn't out there. So I had to create it, right? So who am I? Why am I here? And where are my keys? How many times have you had that thought process? Usually it's at the end of a bachelor party, but in this case, we do have an opportunity to talk about it in regards to marketing. Well, I found my keys. So the problem I solve, the market I reach, and the value I create. So these are what we call an introductory statement. So Christine, let's role play a little bit. Go ahead and give us your intro statement.
Well, and I'm thinking, put this in the comments in the chat area, right?
Yeah,
share with everybody else too. So the problem I solve is, right, the market I reach and the value I create, right? So for me, I know as a marketing coach, right, a lot of times clients are lost. They're mission driven. They want to make that mission out there and impact more people, but they don't even know where to start, right? So the market I reach, right? So it's helping them, those do-gooders, and the value I create, right? That personal touch and helping them build relationships with their ideal clients, right? So I found my keys. Thanks.
Perfect. So how do we build some momentum, right? We're talking about deriving meaningful content that converts. So that means that we have to do what first, right? We got to listen, right? Nobody wants to be sold. So we don't want to come in salesy. We don't want to go out to sell somebody, right? We just simply want to lead them through the decision-making process, right? Little micro steps, things that they can connect with. So when we're talking about social listening, what sort of tools are you using to research your target audience, right? You know what kind of business you want to get because we went through the origin story, we went through an intro statement in the first couple of slides, and every one of these slides could be its own workshop. But if we take this idea and we say, okay, social listening, what does that mean? It's a term that we use in the marketing world, but for purposes today, we really want to be literal about this. And that means really listening to what's going on in your social channels, right? And not just your channels, but the channel of your customer, the channel of your customer's customer, your channel of your customer's family, right? All of these things, as deep as you can go in this, the more insights you can derive on these next two questions, which is what do they consume and how do they communicate? I always say we want to communicate with our market in the way they want to be reached, right? So how many times do you put a campaign together and you go, okay, I'm only doing this on email, right? Well, you probably lost a huge portion of your market because they don't consume that content in email, right? So when we go back to researching our target audience, we look at the surveys, we look at some focus groups, we talk to our past customers, we talk to our associates who have customers that are like the ones we want, right? We start this network, and you're going to hear this a lot in this presentation today. The Giver Marketing Network is an amazing amount of resources for building your business. And here's one, right? Just the research, surveys, focus groups, right? You can do that all within the context of the membership here. There's over 100 quality professionals at your fingertips.
Right. So being able to get an opinion from other marketers, boom, they're right there.
Yeah.
It makes it pretty nice.
We got a wonderful Slack channel. You can interact with people and get great information in real time. So what do they consume and how do they communicate? Right. So those are the big issues that we want to have as we're laying our foundation. And slow and steady, right? We always want to race to the market. But if you were to tip this table and push these cars all off they'd probably go in various directions. And there'd probably be one stalwart that just kind of gradually goes right down the middle, right? That's the winner, right? So we have to really think about gathering our content, sifting through the data, looking at our market, how we want to go to market, what are the activities we like, and are we seeing that displayed in our research? Well, the only way we can then decide whether it's going to convert or not is to test, right? And test your content and track every ting, right? Well, okay, it's a play on words. So everything's a ping, right? We have lots of touches in the journey. And I always talk about the customer journey as not being random, but it doesn't mean that they don't come in places that we may not expect, right? So here's your social engagement, right? Paid touches, meaning you run a couple of ads, do some testing on your content, images, colors. Christine, you build websites, you build landing pages. What does testing mean to you?
Right. Well, and testing, whether it's heat maps on the website to see what people are attracted to and where their attention is, right? Whether it's social media tracking, right? Pay attention. A lot of times people think marketing is one of those things that you just put it out there and then you never look at it again. You're missing a big opportunity to see, how are people interacting with it? Is it converting to where you want, or did you just set it, forget it, and hope for the best? And I think that's a lot of times what happens with marketing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then we leave off this third point, anonymous actions. And I want to talk about that just for a second because it can be tracked, right? So visitors that come to your website that don't engage with you can be tracked. There's ways to match back where they came from. There's ways to communicate and invite them back, right? We know 40% of revenue in business is derived from retargeting. So think about how much you're retargeting your audiences that come in anonymously, right? And if you're not doing that, reach out to the network. We got ways to make that happen.
Well, so I like to call them stalker ads. If you've ever gone and searched somewhere and you were searching like for me, a girl, shoes, I want black boots. Okay. Next thing you know, everywhere you go, there's that little sign that pops up about black boots. And you're like, my goodness, right? Stalker ads. It's because it keeps you top of mind. And they're like, don't forget you wanted to buy those black boots, right? So that's what that is, right? So if you don't have a system in place for that, right? A lot of times we're like, oh yeah, I forgot I wanted that. Thanks for the reminder. And then we go back and we buy, right?
Yeah.
Or abandoned shop carts, right? I mean, so there's a lot of ways to get people back because most of the time we don't purchase the first time, right? So you can't set it and forget it, right? You got to have a system in place to follow up.
Right. So when you're thinking about creating content, we have to have a content strategy. And that's a great segue here, Christine, from your notes here. So I call this a content club sandwich because the bread is on the outside, right? So you're introducing yourself at the top layer, then you're providing, meat and lettuce and cheese and all, different things. And then at the very end, you're representing yourself as a solution, right? So it's a beautiful club sandwich. So the content strategy is going to include these couple of bullet points, right? Some evergreen content, how-to guides, FAQs, ebooks. But I can't stress enough to you to do this in advance. If I can't leave you with any other thought today, is for you to look at your content library and ask yourself, do I have evergreen content? Do I have some user-generated content that I can leverage? Right? And user-generated content means someone outside of you created that content, right? About you and your product, right? Videos, reviews, testimonials, case studies. Hey, I bought this from XYZ company and it makes me feel great, right?
I'm going to say, take a screenshot of this, y'all. You want this. This is great information. He's got nice and succinct right here for you. Take a screenshot of that. So when you start getting lost going, I don't even know what to post. Boom, there it is.
Yeah. And then repurpose some of your existing content. If you have a client or yourself and you've been posting to your blog over the last couple of years, chances are there's a whole bunch of diamonds in that backyard that you can dig up and repurpose. Right?
You can repurpose, refresh it a little bit, put an updated. If you've ever read an article online, it says updated on, right? Somebody went back, refurbished, repurposed, right?
Yeah,
Same
and
thing.
new images, right? And infographics, right? Maybe you can take that information and turn it into a picture, right? Create an infographic about it. So there's lots of ways to do this, but having your content library. So check your content library. What do you have? Do you have evergreen content that can sit there and last forever? Right? If you do, you have repurposeful content. Right? So you can have all these kinds of things going on, but take a look, get in there, and then deploy a playlist. Right? Have yourself a club sandwich that's specific to your playlist. So put out some facts, say something funny, create some fantasy. What if, right? Be fanatical. I really love it when this happens, right? And we just worked with this client in New Jersey and they blew up, right? So, I like to use things you can remember. So here we go. Facts, funny, fantasy, fanatical. Those are all kind of fun ways to play with this.
Absolutely. And think about your long form content that you might have, whether it's an ebook or a standard book, right? Or whether it's a long video. For example, our broadcast on Tuesdays. Take that down and break it down into bite-sized content, right? It's bite-sized that can work well for your reels. It can work well for your Instagram posts, whatever it is. But take that big stuff and you can have tons of small stuff then it's going to last you for quite a while, right?
Yeah. And put into the chat, ladies and gentlemen, if you have some tools that you use to create your content library that you really like, go ahead and stick it in the chat for everybody. Let them take a look at what you use. So we've done all our homework, right? We know who we are, where we're going, what we want. We've created a content library. Now we have to get into the meat and potatoes. Are we going to build our business? Is this going to help us, right? And I think the biggest frustration that a lot of people face is they spend a lot of time and they don't see any results, right? And, engagement is one thing, clicks, likes, all of that. That's beautiful, but does it move the needle for you, right? And so what I want to talk about now is now that you've got your content library together, you have a content strategy in mind, you have your audience identified, you have your unique position created, you know why you're here, you got your keys. So now let's see how we can figure it out. Oh, that hurts, doesn't it? Look at that screen. Got data? All right, well, I don't profess to be a nerd, but I get really nerdy about data. We got to know, man. We got to know what's going on, right? We put out all this content. We did all this work. We put in all this time, research, created images. Did it matter? Did it really matter? Well,
Yeah, you're famous for putting together the nice big display that has all the numbers in that one spot for us to look at. What does all this mean? So you tell us to look at the data. Yeah, whatever. But what is this?
Yeah. So what I really profess is that we know where stuff is coming from, what type of engagement we're getting, and what we can learn from it, right? Because we can't learn what converts if we're not learning, right? You can't learn if you don't have information. So we got to have lots and lots of data. So you've got all these platforms out there, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google My Business, right? Paid ads on all these platforms. We can really drill down IP targeting, programmatic marketing, OTT and stream, right? All of these channels that are out there. One of our clients called the other day and he goes, Joel, guess what? I said, what? I just bought the first 60 seconds at the end of the Super Bowl. And I said, oh my God, that must have been a fortune. $500 is all he spent on his local channel for the first 60 seconds after the Super Bowl. The game went into overtime. his commercial aired during overtime, right? So a nice bump, right? So there's lots of ways, right? So we want to get that data though. What does it do in terms of visitors and traffic, and are they landing at the right place, and in one click can they get the information, right? So we look at all of these. So what I like to do is put all of that content into a dashboard so that in one click you can see in real time how your content is being received. Are people clicking through? Are they engaging? And if your lines aren't trending in an upward direction, there's either a seasonal influence or you just missed the boat on it, right? And it happens, right? We all make mistakes. We all put stuff out that doesn't go anywhere, but we learn from that. So here we go. Jesus, Joel, that looked like a very expensive display. Well, I want to break the myth to you and say that you can have an enormous tech stack that's generating data so you can learn how to create conversions at a very small amount. And look, if you're in business and you're not investing in marketing, you're probably not going to grow, right? But, think about what marketing is. You got time, you got money. You might have more time than money. You might have more money than time, right? So there's all of those equations. But how do we do it in an easy and affordable way? Christine, how much do you think your clients spend just on the tools around their marketing?
Right. Just the tools alone. I know how much I spend just on the tools that I use for them, right? Let alone the ones that they use themselves without me, right? And anything from your calendar invites to your content scheduling to your slicers and dicers for your content, right? There are so much, the project management. I mean, it's crazy when you add it all up. It really is.
And so go ahead and put in the chat if you've got a favorite of any one of these check marks. Go ahead and list it in there. We'd love to see. So let's just kind of go through the list a little bit and talk about what some of the options are. Here, content creation tools. I'll just start right at the top of the list. We have an evolution in the marketing world, actually in the data world, around AI, right? So you can get a content creation tool for the $20 a month range that's generating content for you in seconds that you can then edit and repurpose, cutting your content development time down by 80% probably easily, right? And then you
absolutely can say, just the idea generation side of it, when you're having one of those moments of, oh, I can't think one more thought.
Yeah, or even just sitting down and saying, okay, I need to make a presentation to the Giver Network at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. I've got, it's 9 o'clock at night. How do I get this thing ready? And boom, you've got it done in an hour instead of 8 hours, right? So there's lots of different ways to use that. And same thing with image and video creation. Right?
Well, if you missed last week's presentation, Giver Marketing presentation was talking about image creation with AI.
Mm-hmm. So very affordable, fast and efficient, right? So get those tools in your tech stack. CRM and Deal Tracker. I want to talk a little bit about this because probably once a week, I ask one of my customers or one of our prospects that are looking to engage us, hey, what CRM are you using? Right? We hit the flat line. So we have to think about that. So CRM, customer relationship management tool, what this really is a way for you to keep track of and listen to your market, right? People that you want to talk to. And if you're using LinkedIn or Facebook or any of those other social media platforms, you should have an integrated inbox that allows you to see all of the action going on in your feeds, in your messages, rather, right? And then a good CRM will also have a deal tracker, so you can set up a pipeline. And you can say, okay, here's an opportunity. Its percentage of close is 60%, and this is the stage that it's in, right? It's
Right. And this relates back to that whole conversion thing you were talking about. If you're not tracking your pipeline, you're not tracking your conversions. You don't know what's working or what's not working.
right. And the sources of that, right? And so a good CRM is going to have not only the data on the prospect, it's going to have a good integrated inbox, it's going to have a deal tracker, and it's going to have a workflow stage aspect to it. So put a note in there if you feel like you've got one that does it all. And then the project management, right? So now you've got an opportunity to work on a proposal. You should be able to have in your project manager the ability to create that project, put the elements of it together, communicate with a team. And if you're using the Giver Marketing Network, you might have 3 or 4 collaborative members. So you can ping them in email or through the deal tracker or through the Slack channel if it integrates with your project manager, right? There's lots of different ways to do that, but there should be something that allows you to build a campaign and easily communicate with everyone on that project. Again, not an expensive tool, something that you can get into either by seat, and some of them are like $6 a seat, to integration in a CRM. Some of them have that built in as well, right? A data dashboard, this is, this is my lifeblood, right? And it's really kind of the core of what we're talking about here today, right? You got to have the foundation in place. You got to be able to put things into channels. But the data dashboard is an element worth investing in, and you can get them from their Scythe, which you can get into for as little as $30 or $40 a month, all the way up to hundreds of dollars a month, right? Depending on on your system. There's also Looker Studio, which is a Google product, which is free, and it interacts with spreadsheets. So if you're really a spreadsheet master, you could have a really robust Looker Studio dashboard, which is something we did for one of our clients that was doing, they provided guidance on building equity in your house, right? So you could actually sell your house to them. They would allow you to restore your credit, build while building equity. They would guarantee you ownership back, and then you made a profit in the end. So there was a lot going on there, right? You can imagine. So they had spreadsheets and they had contacts and they're all over the place. We were able to create a Looker Studio dashboard that interacted with all of those data points and put it in one place for them. And that data dashboard cost them nothing but the effort that it took to put it together. Okay, so don't feel scared, right? There's lots of solutions out there that you can get into that doesn't create a lot of cost. The resource network, I told you we're going to talk about the Giver Marketing Network several times today in this presentation, because when it comes to getting content that converts, video creation, and strategies, referral networks, LinkedIn marketing, right? Facebook ads, there's Google ads. There's everybody here that you could use to build out any campaign, right? I don't know, Christine, I probably network with 6 to 8 members on a regular basis in our resource team. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. Whatever it is, I know I've got an expert at my fingertips is what I always say. So it's nice to have those, because marketing is such a broad area and everybody's got their specialty. So it's always nice when you need somebody that knows exactly what you need and they've got it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And, and we have tons of consultants and process professionals. The Prepared Group is one of the partners here at the network that can really take you from zero to hero. So there's lots of really great stuff. So getting back to monitoring now on this other side, we talked about some of this stuff, but Google Analytics is free, ladies and gentlemen, right? Get someone that knows what they're doing and have them put it together for you. Platform pixels. Anywhere you're promoting content or buying ads, you should be able to track all of those touches and get it into your dashboard, right? Integration tools. Maybe you need to move data from one source to another, right? So there's a handful of those out there. Zapier, probably the most well-known, but there's also other ones out there that are very affordable. And gosh, some of them are free. I think Zapier even has a free plan. I don't know. It's been so long. I've used it so much. I don't remember. But yeah, I think they're free. And then having an integrated inbox, social listening inbox. We talked about this early on in the CRM tools, but there are social posting platforms out there that give you an integrated inbox. So you can see everything that's going on all your social media and get an inbox. And if you're fortunate enough to find a good one that also allows you to respond to reviews, that's a plus, right? Because now you're seeing where your conversions are happening, right? Bookkeeping, financial reporting, I just put them on there because they can't be left out. And they're extremely important to know whether it's having an effect in moving the needle and growing your business. All right, so gosh, I could go on and on and on. But if you see anything here and you want to dig a little deeper, dig into the network. Also, the bottom right corner here, freeideasession.com. You can click on there and set up a 30-minute consultation with me, and we can always, at least explore those things that doesn't cost you anything. So go pro. Let's craft some compelling content, right? If we need meaningful content, which is going to be crucial for our success, there's some things we got to think about, right? What's our brand voice, right? How do we define that? How do you define brand voice, Christine, with your clients?
Brand voice. Who needs one of those? Come on now, Joel. You're just being picky, right?
We have a pro in our green room that's going to jump in later too, Tim Salmonson, who is just a master at this. But brand voice and messaging, right? You want everything to be consistent with how you want to be perceived, right? If you're marketing to the Harley crowd, your voice and your brand is going to look different than someone marketing to a high-end retail client, right? Not that the both don't cross over, but it's a different brand voice, right? Effective headlines and introductions, lots of tools for that. And we talked about AI is giving some suggestions, and test them, right? We test everything. We test colors, we test headlines, right? Using storytelling and visuals to engage your audience. Christine, when you talk to your clients, how do you position them in terms of storytelling?
You're going to laugh, but I was just thinking, I think Katie Jordan's in the back office still. I see her back in the studio. I know she said she wanted to escape, but maybe we can get her to pop in real quick and give us an opinion on that. Katie, I'm going to steal you for a second. There you are.
You're a pro.
We're talking about storytelling, visuals, and I know you're the girl we wanted to pull in on that.
Yes. And so what was the exact question? Because I was just having a peek at what I needed to hop to next as you said that.
How do you advise your clients to position themselves through storytelling?
Oh, yes. So really that just comes all the way back to strategy. So we start with the vision, make it plain so that you and your team can run with it. So that's where we start with all of this, because your vision aligns with your values. And then from there, you can pull your goals out and what order you want to put those into. And then the storytelling can come from there. So.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think, a pro like Katie can really help you get on that straight and narrow to really fine tune that. And we have a few others in the network that are great in doing that through social media. And Katie's got some great superpowers in broadcast and PR. So, feel free to hit her up on that. And then using data and statistics, right? We got to support all of our claims. Thank you, Katie. with data and statistics. So it's important that if you're going to put out factual information, that you back it up, right? And and that is going to help you with conversion, right? Because that leans towards credibility. So what is it that people want from their vendor before they purchase from them? What are those three main elements, right? They want to know you, they want to like you, they want to trust you, right? So this speaks to all of that. All right, well, that's my story, and I'm going to stick to it. There's different ways to connect, to learn more. And like I said, just about every one of those topics could be a workshop unto itself. But feel free to connect with me either through my website or in LinkedIn. I always love building my LinkedIn network and communicating with my network through that platform. And if you want a free idea session, you can just scan that QR code. It'll put you right on my calendar, and we can hook up. So now I think Joel.
And we've also got in the comments. So I posted it in there. So if you want to book an appointment with Joel and have a conversation, a cup of Joe, as he likes to say it, and meet him at the Marketing Cafe, that's in there. So just click that link and make an appointment with them. But we have our great people in the audience. Should we pull them in and see what they want to talk about with? Because oh my goodness, we have some great experts back there. So let's pull them in. Yeah,
I would love to hear how they're interacting with converting through value-based content. So Tim Salmonson, mentioned you earlier, love to have your input on some of the tools that you use to get your clients into the meaningful content strategy.
Yeah, just recently I was listening to a podcast, and I don't know if you're familiar with Michael Margolis, but he talked about zooming in, zooming out, and believing it, or seeing it, feeling it, and believing it. And I found that to be super insightful as you're zooming out, creating the possibilities of what the future is. So this is what I would call the journey of transformation. Essentially, helping your client understand that you're in partnership with them to get their clients from where they are to where they want to be, and creating a vision for what that looks like, what the new world looks like, what all the possibilities are. Then you have to help them feel it. So essentially this is the hero's journey. Who's the hero of your story? How do you elevate them? How do you give them the tools that they need to get to where they need to go? And then the believing it is the evidence that you've helped. This is kind of like the authority, the evidence that you provide your clients, and you help your clients provide for their clients, because we're in the marketing world, right? That you have the authority to help them on their journey. So I found that that's a great way of explaining this journey that you help your clients with, is this seeing it, feeling it, and believing it.
Yeah, I like that.
So that people have a larger vision of what it means to accomplish the things they want to accomplish, or have the things that they want to have.
Love that, Tim. And you're a master of pulling that out of people. And Ken, I saw you nodding your head. And when it comes to processes, there's no bigger master than Ken Cook in the prepared group. What sort of insights do you have for us today on creating these meaningful content that converts and figuring out what a conversion looks like?
Yeah, I think the first and biggest thing is you actually have to map your conversion paths. And this is a step that I see a lot of marketers skip and a lot of small businesses skip. And it's not until you get into those, $50 to $100 million businesses that they really do this as a normal course of practice. But understanding, well, what are all of the steps that I need someone to take? If we were to leverage spin selling, we'd call them advances. But what are those minute details that I need them to go from here to here to here to here? And then asking, what's the change in belief that occurs in a person's mind between each of those steps? That then leads to what content do I need to create? And thus, what am I persuading them from and to? I know that sounds a little bit academic, and a lot of marketers don't think of it in those terms. But I think when we break it down, if we look at, well, these are just little pieces of persuasion that are occurring over and over. That can occur in a long form book. That can occur in a 30-second video. But asking what's the piece of persuasion, I think is the biggest key that we've found to finding content that actually works, as opposed to content that just proliferates.
Excellent
Beautifully
point.
said, right?
Yeah, excellent point. And it, so that goes back to, kind of earlier in our presentation, your content strategy, right? Your content library, testing your data, or getting data that tests your content, right? And when it comes to storytelling and emotional connections, none better than Joel Thiessen, who's got not only broadcast experience, but has a team of people that can help you build out your team as well. Joel, why don't you give us a few insights on how you like to convey the story to get people to move through that thought process?
Sorry, I guess I had to unmute myself first. So when you're developing a story, it really starts with, a lot of people will talk about what they do as their story, but actually isn't their story at all. Their story actually has to do with who they are. And if you don't know who you are, then then your story will never actually be compelling. And so it really has to start with this identity of who you are, because at the beginning and the end of the story, your client, the person that you're telling the story to, has to be the hero. If they're not the hero, then they're not interested in your story. And so you can bring it on that say, hey, my story is I'm the person selling the shovels to you, the person digging for gold. Or you basically have to put yourself in that scenario where you're telling the story where they're the hero. And with that, it's when you start there, it becomes a lot more personal and a lot more relatable to everybody watching the story, because you may not. Here's an example. I've been following Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney and their purchase of a Welsh football team. And I may not own a Welsh football team. I've never been to Wales, and I have no interest in soccer at all. Let's just be fair. However, when they're telling the story of their town, it was the story of every town, every hardworking blue collar town. And so they actually pulled over, and a lot of their products are now selling out within days, simply because they told everyone's story in that one soccer team. And they knew who they were, and they identified with the people that were just like them. And if you're telling the story that way, you'll never lose and you'll always convert.
I love that, Joel. And it goes to what we were talking about earlier, right? We've got to go through those first sets of questions that you tend to reflect on at the end of a bachelor party, right? That says, who am I? Why am I here? And where's my keys, right? So we can pull that together, right? It helps to feed that content strategy as well. Christine, you build a lot of landing pages and websites, and you drive people through that story with visuals and images. What are some of the best practices that you use when you're putting a single landing page together?
For me, the vision, right? I work with mission driven. So if you've got a cause, I'm a sucker, I always say. So when you keep that in mind, and that's the goal, like you said, that whole story process, it just comes out when it's mission driven. It just seems like a natural piece of it. And if you're not doing that, you're really missing out. And when I come in contact with nonprofits and coach, if they're not talking about the story and the journey of the people they're trying to serve, you're missing your opportunity. You're not sharing the story that they need to hear of that success process, right? And all too often you'll find them, especially with nonprofits, where they're just asking for money, and that's not going to get you money. The worst thing you can do is ask for money, right? I mean, at some point there's an ask, but that shouldn't be the whole story, right? The story should be the story, not and who you're helping and how you're helping them. So really staying focused on that.
That's fantastic. And I would like to kind of redirect the conversation. We've got just a few minutes left, and say, okay, we've talked about the marketer and their process. We've talked a little bit about a content strategy and developing that content. I want to flip back to listening to your audience and social listening. And Ken, maybe is there some insights that you could give our audience on tips and tricks on how to really do a good job of listening?
There's two main things that we do for social listening. The first, and this is something my business partner David Bear came up with, he goes onto Reddit and looks at particular topics there, and you'll find a vast wealth of information. And he has come up with some pretty incredible insights using that as a tool that we've seen work over and over and over again. The thing that I have tended to do historically is we've used a tool called SparkToro, which was started by Rand Fishkin of SEO fame. And it does some pretty interesting points of data connection. So, for example, if you go to this website, you're likely to listen to this podcast, right? Those kinds of things. And there's some very, very interesting data on there. Paid accounts are not very expensive, and it has definitely been a really good source for us. And I would say there's probably a third thing, which is we look at a lot of what are other people who are advertising, saying, doing, and positioning. From a social listening perspective, it's great to always have that, firsthand source where you're able to say, hey, so-and-so who is my ideal client said this. Sometimes that's hard to find, though. And a relatively decent substitute is someone who's spending money to try to get that exact same client and listening to what is their message. Now, obviously, there are better advertisers and worse advertisers, but it definitely can be a great source to say, well, if so-and-so is spending a certain amount of money on this, they probably have done enough research and they found things that maybe I haven't found, or maybe they found things similar to what I think, and I can use this as a source of validation for those ideas.
That's a good point. And that, I will have to say, with the caveat that it's a great place to start testing, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that's the answer, right? And we do know that 80% of most marketing campaigns fail, right? So we have to kind of go into it with the knowledge that maybe they've saved us a little bit of time in our discovery process and allows us to test our ideas with our specific audience. How many times do clients say, well, if I do this, what can I expect? Right? And you go, it's anecdotal. I could talk to you about a client that had an enormous amount of success and they had an enormous budget. Right. So everything has to be an even playing field. Right. So if you're not Budweiser, chances are you've got to do a little more digging to make that work. Tim, when you're talking about listening and you're a very deep thinker, you're thinking about when you're looking at your audience and you're building an audience for your clients, what sort of things are you listening for?
I think about the hardware salesman who's trying to sell a hammer. And if we're thinking that we have a product or service that we're trying to sell like a hammer, we've missed the whole point, because it's not the hammer that people want, it's the results that the hammer provides. So it's that beautiful family portrait that they paid some amazing photographer to create this awesome image to be able to put on their wall, and to cast a vision for what the hammer does is going to, can't say guarantee, obviously, it's something that a lot of us forget. And most of the people that I work with talk about all the features and they skip the benefits, because we have so much invested in our features, all the certifications, all the training, the education, all the rewards. We want to talk about those things because they cost us a lot. But what our clients want to know is, how is it that what you do is going to help me get what I want? And helping them understand what they want is not just to become more profitable, but it's to be passionate about solving a problem for somebody. So it's our job as marketers to be passionate about solving someone's problem. So getting to not the hammer, not the nail, but the portrait, and explaining to people, all people care about are the benefits of what we have to offer, not the product or service.
Yeah, well said. And Joel, you provide an amazing service to companies to do that. How do you listen for what they really need?
I think it really depends on the questions that you're asking. When I'm having a conversation with someone, my first priority is not to sell what I'm doing. My first priority is, do they actually need what I'm selling? Because if they don't need it, then I don't want to sell it to them, because that's just bad business, in my opinion. And so what I'm doing is I'm listening to them, and I'm looking at the processes that they have in place, going, okay, do you have, if we were to bring my team in, where is the customer going to go after that? We do a lot with customer support, which a lot of people love having the sales process and the marketing and the pre-sale marketing. But if something goes wrong and there's no customer support, where are your people going to go? How long are they going to wait for an answer? And are they going to come back and talk to you again? If they do have support and they bring our team in, how are we making the next step to help them buy again? There's a whole surrounding issue that just because you may be interested in my services, there's a whole bunch of other processes you need in order to capitalize on it. And if I can ask the right questions and I can get them talking about their company, I know at what point they're ready for my services.
I love that. I'm going to take the last 5 minutes and talk a little bit about, does social listening disqualify a client from your service? And how do you really draw that line? What's the benchmark that you might use in just a couple of sentences or 30 seconds or less? How would you disqualify a client from your service, Tim?
Values, 100%. Yeah, it's the one key driver that we all need to. It's our true north. It's the compass. The way that we attract the kind of people is expressing what our values are. And if you betray those values, you've just confused the people that thought they wanted to do business with you. So.
Oh, love that. We had an opportunity to work with a THC product, and while there's some benefits to it, and I try to be politically, socially agnostic to my clients, there was just a line I wasn't willing to cross, and so we had to say that that's not one that was for us, right? Ken, how do you disqualify a prospect?
Well, Tim took the best answer. Thanks, Tim. Yeah. I would say that some of the biggest disqualifiers for us have been in an interview asking them how have they worked with other similar businesses to ours in the past. Right. In other words, if they've gone through in 3 or 4 agencies in the last 18 months, probably not the kind of person you really want to be working with. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with their expectations. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of people who expect all of us to be magicians, and we're not. Mm-hmm. And we can't just make money fall from the sky for them. That's just not reality.
One of my business partners would ask when we brought on a new project, he goes, how long do you think we're going to keep this client? Because the project had on the surface a low probability of success. Christine, how do you disqualify? You work with a lot of social awareness,
Yeah,
nonprofit.
it's gotta be relationship based. If they're not looking to build a relationship with their audience, with their ideal client, if it's not relationship based, it's not my space, and it's not something that's going to catch my interest. It's not something I want to play with. You've got to have some kind of relationship with your audience. If it's just I'm selling widgets, that's all I'm doing. It's online, it's e-commerce, and I don't want to know anything about my people. They want it, they buy it, they don't. That's not my thing. It's got to be relationship based, and if it's not the playground I want to play in.
That's a good point. So just as we kind of wrap up, Joel, do you have any final thoughts on how you qualify or disqualify your clients?
We have a very simple standard at our company, and we have it's people over projects. And if you walk in the door and you're all about the profit, you're not for us. If you're about your customers and really creating an experience for them, that's someone we'll work with. But just like it's like a mix between what Tim said and what Christine said. If it's about the profits, or if it's not about relationship, we don't want you.
That's a good point. And I have to say, for all the product marketers out there, we take on plenty of product marketing campaigns, and it's all about the sales, right? But if you're not telling the story and you're not creating that relationship with the audience, you're not hearing what they want, like, need, right? It isn't going to matter. You're not going to sell it, right? So at least not for the long term. It's just a quick transaction, right? And if you're just looking for a quick transaction, there's a program for that, and there's a strategy for it, right? So nothing is off the table. The question is, how are you researching, developing a strategy around it? What's your strengths? Is it a good fit for you, right? And do you have the tools in place to make it successful? So before we sign off, Christine, I know you have a few announcements that you wanted to go over, and we definitely want to invite as many of you as possible into the Giver Marketing Network if you're not already. And if you are, and you haven't been engaging with us, and I don't know who you are, and Tim doesn't, and Joel doesn't know who you are, and Christine doesn't know who you are, right? This is your time to really shine and put yourself in the front. So Christine, how do we do that?
Well, if you want to come play with us, we have an open invitation to all the marketers out there to come hang out on Wednesdays with us for it's going to be networking for marketers. So come have fun with us. It's at the same time as we do the broadcast on Tuesdays, but it's on Wednesday. So Wednesdays, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 10 Central, and 11 East Coast. Come hang out and have some fun. You shouldn't be a lonelypreneur. Don't do it alone. Come hang out. Have a good time. You're going to go to givermarketing.com/networking, and then you can come hang out and come register for free and be part of our tribe.
Is that for Giver Marketing Network members only?
It's for all the marketers out there, because we want you to come meet us and have fun with us. Nobody should ever be lonely.
Business owners that are not necessarily marketers, can they sit in?
You can pop in and say hi. I won't kick them out.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, if you want to wrap us up, Christine, and land the plane, we certainly appreciate everyone's time today. We know how valuable it is, and we want to honor you with that. And I do have a free 30-minute idea session. You're welcome to come. If we spend some time together, I'll send you a virtual cup of coffee as my personal thanks.
Absolutely. And we'll see y'all next Tuesday. Same bat channel, same bat time for our marketing broadcast. And we'll see you then. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.